Coming up on this edition of Rev Culture, racers getting ready for a new season. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Rev Culture. I'm Todd Lewis. Coming up on the program, Brent Roy is the race director for the Super Late Model Series in Eastern Canada. He'll give us the latest. Quinton is scheduled to run the full APC Late Model Series this year. He has an interesting story of how he found his way into motorsports. He'll share that with us. But first up, the fellow's name is very prominent in Canadian motorsports. Sam Fellows has a busy season planned in the NASCAR Canada Series and some other projects.
Sam, was it inevitable that you would go into the racing motorsports family business, or was that something that you wanted?
I think inevitable. So it's funny, I was actually talking to somebody recently about this. They were saying, your first memories are formed when you're like 4 years old or something. I was thinking, oh, I was 4 years old. Okay, 1997, Putnam Park, Indiana. Yep, I was on my dad's lap. Driving a NASCAR truck around the track, letting me hold the steering wheel. I think that's when that all started, and everything went downhill from there. I think I was screwed after that.
Well, it's sort of inevitable. You started off in karts, and understandably so, with the karting program, and just kind of developed from there.
Yeah, a little bit. So I did karts in a very, I'd say, casual way. Mom and Dad pulled me out of school a few times to go testing privately. We had a friend who had a little team. And then I did some arrive and drive at Goodwood. And then I think, we wanted to do more stuff, but the focus was still on my dad always. And I wouldn't, I thought about it, and I wouldn't really trade the experiences that I had at the track, hanging out with my family, with my dad. I can remember, being in the back of the hauler, hanging out with him and Jimmy Johnson and, Dale Jr. and Danica Patrick. Like the list goes on and on. Like that's you can't give that back. Those memories are pretty important. And I learned a lot too, just hearing him talk about what he wanted with the car and with engineers and mechanics and crew chiefs. And so, yeah, I think I lost maybe a little bit of time on the whole karting side, but I wouldn't trade it.
The valuable experience and the great stories, I'm sure, that go along with it. So after karts, understandably, you found your way into sports cars too, because again, that's something that Ron did.
Yeah, I think so. The turning point for me was when my dad started getting involved with the driving school in Nevada, and I, was lucky enough to go with him a bunch of times, and I was learning not just how to drive, and it kind of spills into my other part of my life is I was also learning how to be an instructor, which has kind of helped me out a little bit, I guess. But I think I've taken that school a million times. I probably have a stack of certificates, but I think where it really started was about 11 years ago with, a little $8,000 Camaro that we bought, 1996 Camaro, and going racing in CASC. They're just over there. So that was the endurance races. And I think, and I still believe that when you're just doing 3-4 hour races, you get so much seat time, and that's kind of where it all started.
Time in the seat to apply that practical knowledge that you were probably getting through stories and anecdotes previously.
Yeah, it made sense in my head, but then you go to do it, and you're like, okay, some of this stuff actually works. I guess Dad knows what he's talking about.
Okay, so now you find your way through sports cars, the little sports car racing, some success, and now you found yourself into NASCAR Canada, and started off with one team, formed your own team. It's been an evolution.
Yeah, I think we figured out, just from if you look around the paddock, I think a lot of the top guys seem to run their own program, or at least kind of be in charge of their own destiny, if you want to say it like that. And I think that's kind of where we had an awesome experience with Jim Bray. We got some good results, but I think in the end, we really wanted to put our name on the team and do a fellows thing, and we had the opportunity to do that with AER, with the McGraw family. So Fellows McGraw Racing was born, And no, it's really cool for me and emotional, honestly, to think about. My dad met them in 1990, and they've supported him all through the years, and they were an important part of the Pratt and Miller days and Corvette racing and all that. And now for them to step up and be part of the team and sponsor me, it's emotional. It's emotional. I've shed some tears over that, so it's awesome.
You're planning to run road courses this year. You've seen progress in the last couple of years. Have you set goals for this year?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to win, Todd. Like,
I know.
You always want to win. But I think, we had our first top 5 as a team last year. I think we had a shot at a podium before the engine went boom at the last race. I think we should be solidly in the top 5. That's kind of where I'd like to see myself, is battling in the top 5 and, kind of asking questions there and kind of knocking on the door there. I'm a very realistic person. I'm a big Senna guy, but also enjoy Prost, like as the professor. I mean, I think on days when I know I'm competitive, I know I can push it, and on days when I know I'm not, I know when to kind of sit back. And I think the guys who are at the top level in this series are super, super ultra competitive, and they're the guys we're trying to catch. And it's no secret that they're hard to catch. So we're just gonna keep pushing and making that goal of trying to get in their heads and get up there with them.
That's a good answer. You still have the family dynamic working too, in that Ron is spotting for you. How do those conversations go? Are they one way, and do they continue after the race?
Yeah, they continue until even just this morning and talking to him. We never stop talking about the race, whatever it is, or racing. But yeah, the spotter stuff is funny because right at the end of his career, I kind of told him, hey, I'd like to do that for you. So I did a little bit for him, 2012, 2013. Actually had words with Brad Keselowski after a race one time as how old was I, 14-year-old kid or something like that. That was funny. So yeah, it's kind of roles reversed, but he's like the absolute wealth of knowledge, I would say. And apart from just being a good technical spotter in terms of telling me, where I'm at and who's around me and blah, 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 on a caution, I can remember this last year really having trouble setting somebody up in 3. And I'm like, well, tell me, what would you do? Like, how do I time it coming out of 2 to get this guy because he's doing this and that, and giving me, hints and things. And there's a lot of adrenaline pumping. So to have someone who's kind of sitting aside calm and speaking of it very objectively, it helps to have that input.
You mentioned it a little bit earlier that your racing in the family business has led you to another career as an instructor too, and a pretty cool gig coming up as well.
Yeah, I was honored this last November to accept the role of chief instructor for the soon opening Porsche Experience Center Toronto. And it's an exciting project, and there's going to be some announcements coming soon, so I don't want to give too much away. But super exciting and an honor for me to be involved in that, and it's gonna be pretty special.
Because there's many people out there that experience injuries such as mine.
The road to racing for Cole Quinton has been very full. In fact, your story, Cole, starts even before you began karting, because that was your first introduction into racing. How did you become aware of karting as a possibility?
Well, it actually stemmed back to when I was 4. I ended up having a brain injury in a car accident coming back from Florida in South Carolina. And this herniation of the brain really limited my ability to do any contact sports. So there was no football, there was no hockey, there was no kind of the typical young kid things to do. And thankfully, due to the safety innovations at the time, much like a Hans device now, there was this 360 device in karting that, kind of limited your head from, really having any whiplash kind of interaction. And that allowed me to get cleared by the doctors during that time to be able to kart. But kind of before I really got into karting, my dad was just a race fan. They had came to Flamborough Speedway one night, and the Waterloo Regional Kart Club was kind of doing a little showcase within the track track. They got the little road course in the middle of the oval. So my brother had karted for a few years. I really had an interest in it and wanted to go do that. And then after my injury, it really limited what I was going to do as a kid. And since karting was one of the things that I could do, it really allowed me to go about that avenue instead of anything else. And ever since then, I felt like it was just kind of meant to be. So I was thankful that, God got me through all of that, and I'm able to be healthy and remain healthy. And I end up doing, I think, 9 years in the kart club. So it was definitely a bit of a different start of the journey, but there was really one pathway for me to kind of take.
Interesting that I imagine your folks were a little taken aback saying, you mean he can get in a go-kart, but he can't go play football?
I know, and that's a common misconception, and a lot of my friends still say that to this day. It's just with the safety innovations of not letting your head go forward or back or side to side. While it's a little more free in karting, with the speeds that what you're going to get is different than in a stock car, and obviously with the technology in our stock cars now, it really constrains that movement. So that was what the doctors were worried about, and they said, no roller coasters, no things like that. Definitely no boxing. Even though I actually wanted to be a boxer when I was younger, believe it or not, but that was shut down. So really karting and racing was the one thing that I kind of gravitated towards, and because of that, I kind of grew such a strong passion for it, and the WRKC really helped me to climb up the ranks.
Was your recovery and rehabilitation going on at the same time you were karting?
Yeah, a little bit. So I actually had the surgery when I was 5, just after my 5th birthday. So there was a few years of recovery there. I had scoliosis as well as one of the symptoms. And so there was some recovery to do within those 2 years. I actually started late. I started at 8. I think the WRKC still does it when you're 7. You can do it and get into the cadet division, I'm pretty sure it is. So I started a little late, but my parents want to make sure and the doctors want to make sure I was 100% ready to go. And ever since then, I kind of haven't looked back. I've had some, reoccurring symptoms over time, some, things such as nerve damage that, really is kind of hurts my day to day, but it's been nothing that has limited my ability to hop in a race car and try to go fast. And that's kind of the thing that's important to me. So I've just continued to do that.
How successful were you right away at karting?
I actually won my second year. I won a championship in my second year. So karting, I was really, I think, had a strong suit towards. I still wish I could get back on a road course one day, because I think that's kind of what I really like to do. But the karting was great. I had 9 years in it, won a few championships, and missed a few by a few points. So really had a strong outing in the karting and at Waterloo. I even made it down to Indianapolis for a few races at the Brickyard. So kind of was trying to run some specials and maybe trying to get into the national stuff around here even a little more and broaden my horizons. But around the 2020 time during COVID, I really became good friends with the Spira racing family and Carol and Ken Spira, and that kind of led to where I am today.
So that brought you into stock car racing, and you've evolved through a couple of generations of stock car racing now to where you're going to run the APC series full time this year.
Yeah, so when I first got on the scene with the stock cars, I was a development driver with Spira actually in 2019. Then COVID hit, kind of threw a wrench in our plans, and then the 2021 year, I finally stepped in a car. So it was a bit of a few years of just waiting around, and by the time I got in the mini stock, I really actually did well my first few years and only did the 2 years in it. And then in 2023, I first hopped in a late model. And if anybody's done that before, they know that transition's hard. So it took me a year or so to get used to it. And now I'm going into my 3rd year, my second full-time season in the APC series. And I'm looking to see if we can continue on the growth pattern from there. So
what are the areas that you focus on for progress this year?
I think the team aspect is really important. I think people underestimate how important it is to just have a good team around you, and that's something I've had to become accustomed to. In karting, me and my dad really didn't know what we were doing. Some people think that we knew what we were doing, and maybe we were leading them astray sometimes, but we showed up and cleaned the car and did, what we kind of knew, and then we went and won races. But that was, you could get away with it there. With the Pro Late and the mini stock, even, you can't get away with that now. It's months of preparation, a lot of hours in the shop, having to be humble enough to know that you don't know everything. So the team aspect's been something that I've really had to focus on, what we can do behind the scenes, is not just me in the seat, but also just experience. Experience is really important. When you run against guys like J.R. Fitzpatrick or guys like Kyle Steckley who've been in it a while, I don't have that many years in a stock car. I have to get accustomed to racing against those guys. I mean, Stoddy's been in APC since I've been racing go-karts or something like that, right? So running against a veteran like that is really hard. So you have to get used to that and try to almost outsmart them in a way, but also out-prepare them. So that's been something I've had to get used to.
Where do you see your future in racing? Is it driving or is it something else?
So I am going to the University of Waterloo for mechanical engineering. That's a popular program, Cole Pern made famous, kind of. And I really only knew that after I had applied to Waterloo for mechanical. So I'm lucky enough to have some good friends in the racing industry, a few that one that works for the 11 team right now of Denny Hamlin, Scotty Simmons. And he kind of told me when I was thinking about, what do I want to do as a future? He said that, a lot of the guys down here do mechanical engineering, and that's how they get their in. So I thought crew chiefing would be the next best thing rather than driving, and that's kind of my ultimate goal. So we'll see if I can do that. I'm in my second year at school right now, and if I can't continue the driving much longer, I'm hopefully going to make my trip to the States soon to try to pursue that career as well. So
The education and engineering part of it, how much has that changed your knowledge or increased your knowledge and communication with what you need and want in the car?
So, I mean, I think in later years, maybe we'll get into that more. I'm going to be honest, not really a whole ton. Like, you kind of have to do your own knowledge, like your own exploring, right? You gotta find your own resources. So, even the Formula SIE team at the school where we build our own Formula car, that's been really important to try to get into. So I've tried to, get into that more and, learn, the nitty gritty behind it, the math behind everything and stuff like that. So that's been good. But it's really just, it's who you know. And that's a big thing is there's generations of knowledge out there, but things are always advancing. So I've tried to cling to a few mentors and, pick their brain, ask them questions, and then go back to a textbook, which, I got supplied from the school about race cars and then go, okay, so why did he say that this does this? And then I learned the math behind it. So that's really cool. And I think it allows me to think outside the box a little bit on some things, but sometimes what you put on paper doesn't always work on the racetrack, right? And that's been famous. So I think last year we really started to hit it after round 4 APC and we just had some, things to work out in the final 4 or 5 races that kind of limited us from having a good finish. But I'm ready to see if maybe some of that engineering kind of plays a benefit this year.
How much does your story and history of your accident and injury and recovery play a role in your career, and how much do you share that and share your experience to help others?
I haven't shared it that much. I think I'm still pretty new on the scene, and I'm kind of getting more comfortable trying to build more of a platform where I can tell people what I've been through, and because there's many people out there that experience injuries such as mine, and who the kids out there who don't know what to do, don't know what to get into, and they want to be a kid and they want to get into sports. So that was one thing that was kind of bulletproof was the karting and the racing and it's still crazy. People look at the big wrecks at Talladega and Daytona and go, how is that safe? Well, it's safer than if you get body checked in hockey. So it's something that people aren't aware of, and head injuries, brain injuries especially, are a huge thing. And in the world, it's common injury. So I would love to get out there and share my story more.
What can we do to start creating some very unique races?
The Super Late Model Series is preparing for year number 3 of competition in Atlantic Canada. Brent Roy is the series director. Before we look ahead to 2025, give us a quick look back on 2024. It was another good season for you guys.
Absolutely. I tell you, 2024 was awesome. We had 6 excellent races across 3 racetracks in this beautiful eastern part of the country. And I'll tell you what, like a lot of people said Ashton Tucker and Corey Hall kind of ran away with it. If the 83 wasn't in victory lane, the 2 was in victory lane. So everybody, by the time we got 2/3 of the way through the season, was thinking, man, are we going to get a different winner or what? And I find that not to put anything against any of the other competitors, what we see in NASCAR nowadays and some other forms of racing, they try to kind of manufacture a game 7 moment. We went into the final feature event after heat races with those 2 guys tied in points. It was a heads up straight up, whoever wins, wins. And it wasn't manufactured, it just happened organically. And I'll tell you what, as a promoter, you can't script it any better than that, even if you wanted to. So it was awesome. We had a phenomenal season. The final race, Ashton Tucker won. Corey Hall finished right on his bumper in second.
And now looking ahead to 2025, it's going to be 6 races once again, but you've got some new things coming in this year. You're going to change up the length of some of the races in the second half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started this deal 2 years ago with myself, Wayne, and Robbie and Chris over in PEI, we wanted to make sure, that it was going to work. So for the first year, we said, okay, 650 lap races, pretty simple, straight up sort of deal. Year 2, we said, okay, it worked. It worked very well. We don't need to change, kind of what we got going on. So we kind of did a copy paste and just went forward with, the schedule that we had, kind of very similar dates, exact same format. And again, we were treated to another awesome 2025 season. So you can't do that 3 times in a row. So what we did, we went back to the drawing board and we said, okay, what can we do to start creating some very unique races? And one thing that I'm really excited for this year is the season ends on the 61st annual River Glade International and Petty Raceway. So a race that's had hundreds, if not thousands, of racers compete in it over the years is going to be our championship finale race. What's really cool, we talked about the format of that race and whether we get it out in print before this or not. That one has been decided. So it's going to be a 2-segment race. The first segment is going to be 61 laps to, tip the hat to the 61 years of the River Glade International. And then after that, we're going to have a break and another division race in between. So the teams have time to work on their vehicles and get them ready for a 120 lap second segment. And in that second segment, what's nice about Petty International Raceway is you can actually make a pit stop, and the pits are a very flow-through design. So in that 120 laps, every team's going to have a mandatory pit stop. I don't care what you do, but you're going to have a mandatory pit stop. You got to come in, you got to give up your track position, come into the pits. You can adjust the car if you want. You can fuel it if you want. You can stop your pit stall, tear off the tag that signifies that you stopped if you want, and continue going. It's up to you. So we're super excited for that one. It's going to be really unique and a really fun way to close out the season.
You guys came into existence and you had good car counts right away. I think it was 31 cars that participated last year. I think that says a lot about how you plan to come out of the gate and are building in the right direction.
Yeah, moving forward, like we're super excited to just continue the DNA and keeping it simple. And that's what the team's like. And I think that's the biggest reason that we see the car count that we do is because we just keep things simple, right? It's a 1-day show typically. It's 4 tires. There's not a whole bunch of, added this or that. You go, you heat race. We have the passing point system, similar to what ACT uses, which puts on awesome heat races to begin with, and then sets your field. And oftentimes people don't even know where they're starting until we kind of post the results of where everybody plays out. So the fact that that's probably the most complicated part of it. But apart from that, we just keep it simple.
Ashton Tucker, Corey Hall, as you mentioned, put on a whale of a show to wrap up last year. Anybody else we should keep our eye on for 2025?
Man, I'll tell you, it really sells everybody else very short to just say those 2 names because, I have, when I look at a starting grid, when I look at a field of race cars, the mindset I always look at it with is, okay, if I saw that racer in victory lane tonight, would I be shocked and surprised? And for the majority of our field, the answer is no. Like you can look at 75 or 80% of our cars, and if they won the feature that night, you would not say, holy crap, what happened? You would say, oh, wow, they had a good run. So that just speaks to the depth and the level of talent in the field.
And that will do it for this edition of Rev Culture. Don't forget, you can catch up on past episodes by going to the Rev TV YouTube channel. That's also where you will find new episodes of Speed Chronicles every Wednesday. Please make sure you follow us on the social channels as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.